Hello everyone, what's up? Harshit Tyagi here, and welcome to another video where I am going to be sharing my professional journey so far, like how I started off as a freelancer back in college, went to a full-time job, and then went back to freelancing. So it's a little special, and I'm going to be sharing, how can you land your first freelancing project or freelancing client. So I'm going to be sharing my entire framework, as in how do I shortlist my clients, the organizations, how do I pitch my ideas to existing clients and new clients, and how do I keep improving the entire framework basically. So no matter if you are a college going student or a professional having a full-time job and have some time to spare for some extra gig on the side and make build some side income to save for a break year, or maybe save for a new car or new house, whatever it is. There's something that freelancing can actually help you with. So besides building a side income, freelancing can actually help you become your own boss, and by that I mean that you can work on your own terms. So as a freelancer, what I enjoy the most is the control and the power that I get. So the ownership that I enjoy is basically, I decide what I want to work on. I decide the amount of work that I want to do in a week, in a month, or in a year. I decide at what pace I want to grow. And of course, there's no limit to how much you can make if you're doing well, of course. So then there are some other benefits as well, which seem very luring to other people. Like you can wake up or sleep anytime, you can work from anywhere, and yeah, all of those things. But I consider them as side benefits. So here in this video, I'm going to be sharing my framework. So let's get started with it. So as the infographic image or the flowchart here shows, you simply need to follow each of these 5 steps shown in blue over here. And I have mentioned what are the do's and the don'ts in the red below, and the do's are on the green. So these are the main 5 steps. Firstly, you have to identify your skills as a service. Second one is you have to define your ideal client or your market. Then the third step is build your portfolio and your profiles, the freelancing platform profiles and social media profiles. Then you have to work on marketing your services to clients. So how do you pitch to your clients? And the last step, and the very important step, is to capture the results or the gaps, analyze the output at each step, and attune your approach to keep improving. So step 1 is identify your skill as a service. The skills section of your resume simply lists down your knowledge in terms of technologies and techniques. But you have to identify what you can do with each of those skills in the real world. And that basically constitutes your service. So make it explicit for the prospective clients to understand what you can do for him or her. Now, I have also written a blog post and you can refer to it. It's not published yet. I'll provide the link in the description. So I've listed down, so your skills could be, web development, marketing, graphic designing, or data analysis, or machine learning models. You can do all of those things. Those are your skills. Those are not your services. You have to provide your services. You have to identify what you can do, what you can create, what you can build, what you can solve. So your services could be building high performance end-to-end websites or web applications using, Mean Stack, Django, Python, Flask, whatever frameworks that you use. Then creating beautiful illustrations and digital artworks for websites, videos, and posters for graphic designing people. And it could be helping individuals and SMEs in promoting their products and services online for a digital marketing guy. And then for a data analysis, a person who is proficient with data analysis, he could be crunching data to uncover hidden patterns and answering important business-centric questions to make informed decisions and help management make decisions. A pro tip at the end would be, look for people who have made a successful career out of freelancing. Study and replicate their process. How do they identify their services, or how do they identify or translate their skills into those services? And the second step would be to learn to use the right phrase. Basically, when you're identifying your service, you have to actually tell your client what you do and why you are better than the rest. Second step is define your ideal client or your ideal project. Now, the whole video is centered around answering a question, which is how to land your first client. Now, I know there's no freelancing career without clients, but that doesn't mean that you should reach out or pitch your services to anyone. It'll reap you no good and instead will add to your frustration. So you have your niche from the first step, and now you have to do some research on who would need that kind of services. So for example, if you are into web development, your clients could be local stores or fitness instructors, institutes, hotels, creators. So nowadays a lot of creators might need a website, so you can reach out to them as well. Then if you're into data analysis, data driven startups and organizations, reach out to them, help them in creating dashboards, reports, and all of those things if you're good with Tableau, Power BI or Excel. Then if you're into developing machine learning models and neural networks, and the DevOps side of things, data engineering side of things, then you can reach out to PaaS or SaaS organizations. Then one thing that you should note here is that you should not reach out to franchise business because they're too big, and MNCs and heavily guarded corporates who might not want to share their data or their clients' data with a freelancer. And a pro tip here is to look for individually owned businesses for web development and data science. And then for data science projects or opportunities, firstly, you make sure that you have a good grip over your fundamentals, and then use platforms like Code Mentor to help out students as well. And again, the data-driven startups and organizations are there. So this brings us to the next step, which is step 3. Build your portfolio website and all of your profiles. After determining your niche and your target clients, it's time to set up your shop, which in this case can be your portfolio website, which I highly recommend, or it could be profiles on platforms like LinkedIn, Upwork, TopTal, AngelList, etc. So when it comes to portfolio website, basically, why are we doing this? So an important thing to note here is that you want someone to trust you with their business. And how can you make someone trust you? You can start by telling your professional story. Portfolio websites are one way to do just that. If you don't have a story to tell yet, create one by working for yourself. That is, build sample websites using commonly used themes available online, or you can propose to work on a project for a prospective client for free. Now, most people mistake a portfolio website with an online resume. It's not a resume. A portfolio website is not for you, but for the clients that you want to target. So it should showcase your services through your work samples, websites, applications, reports that you can create if you are into data analytics, conference talks if you have done any, all of those things. If you don't have any samples to show, create a few, develop dashboards, develop some machine learning models that you have trained that's trained on some very complex data set, or solving some very important problem which impacts business directly. And host those, deploy those models or deploy those web applications that you're creating. Show that you deliver high quality work. Then second step is testimonials or recommendations. Now ask your former colleagues, bosses, clients to write you a testimonial. And an important tip here is that if you haven't worked anywhere before, so if you don't have anyone, so basically you can just simply go ahead and propose someone that you want to work on one of their projects or build something for them for free, and then ask for a comment or a testimonial from them. And also those people can also refer you to other clients. Then You can write blogs. So this is something that has worked really well for me. So this basically it is a way to establish credibility and your expertise, and you can actually showcase what all you know, and it's a way to give back to the community and how many of your peers or your juniors are actually learning from your knowledge. So an example ideas for those blog posts would be, how to reach a wider audience with a website that could actually help you, or a client could get an understanding, why would I need a website to reach a wider audience, and then what type of business metrics should your dashboard or reports contain. So that is something that a data analyst would want to do, or a marketing analyst would want to do. Then next step is to create profiles. So profiles is very important part. So I have used LinkedIn very much. Like I use it for probably all my job search, for all my freelancing clients. I reach out to people working at those companies, and I try to make a relationship with them. So this is my LinkedIn profile, where I have added all my work samples, links to my work samples, talks, jobs or workshops that I have conducted. So all of my work with regards to full stack development, web development, data science, machine learning, all of those things are present over here. I have spent a good number of hours curating this whole profile, so you can take a look at that. And then there are other platforms like Upwork, TopTal that you can create. So this is my Upwork profile here. This platform is basically listed or basically created to get both the clients and the freelancers on just one platform. So you can actually look for projects or clients who are more aligned with who have the kind of work that you would want to do, or that you have the expertise for. So this is my profile. You can list down all the skills, your expertise. You can create specialized profiles as well. Then you can list certifications. You can add testimonials, employment history, other experiences. So take examples, spend some time creating your profile, setting up your shop. If it would look good, people would be attracted, clients would be attracted, and that will basically help you reach out and establish your credibility. That will actually then add on to building that trust. When it comes to creating a good profile on these freelancing platforms like Upwork, there are a few very important things that you have to get right. So here are a few tips. First of all, you have to review the projects that you would be interested in applying for, because there are a lot of projects out there, a lot of clients who have uploaded their demands, their requests, and what they are looking for. So you do a lot of research, go through each of those projects, see what they are looking for and where the gap is. Does it match your expertise, your services, and list up to 10 skills that are high in demand after your research. Then upload a professional picture along with the short and succinct bio that describes your niche and your services. Then highlight your best work and your portfolio. List down any certifications that you have. That basically adds weight to your profile, gets more credibility. And then at the end, be consistent with your skills. Sometimes people tend to simply just list down all the skills that they can think of, or even if they have, let's say, just written one simple HTML script, they would add web development in their skills section. That's not how it works. The next step is pitching to your client, how to reach your prospective clients. Now it's time to get down to business, and you have to sell yourself, you have to sell your services to your prospective clients. Now, the first thing that you have to do is to get clients to propose to sell to. So this is where you need to work on your visibility and your outreach. Now, there are a number of ways we can do that. So first of all, you can reach out to clients on platforms like LinkedIn, or DM someone on Twitter. And this is something that has worked for me. Like, I always shortlist a list of companies, then I reach out to people working in those companies, and I text them. I have created this whole template, so I'll share what I do in a bit. So then the second thing that you can do is use freelancing platforms like Upwork, TopTal, Code Mentor, AngelList. There you can reach out to a lot of different clients. Then if you want to go one step ahead, you can market yourself. You can use Google AdWords to advertise your services. You can create Facebook groups. Now, this is something like most people do these days. They create their Facebook groups in their localities, in their regions, like let's say in their city or state. They offer their services in those particular groups, and they sell their services in that particular niche, in that particular physical location, to attract all of those customers in that region. Then, if I had to share my approach in this particular step, what I do is I do a lot of research. First of all, to shortlist all these organizations, I find out, okay, these are the companies that are doing the kind of work that I can contribute to, that I have the expertise for. Then I find out who all are working there. I do a lot of research on LinkedIn about those companies, on Twitter, and Google search and browsing as well. So that's how I list down all the companies that I want to reach out to. Then I have created different categories. So let's say I want to reach out to companies in fintech, in healthcare, in edtech. So I basically list down these companies as per their categories, and then I create different template messages for each type, for each domain. And I study the projects that these companies have in pipeline, and tweak all of those messages a little bit. So those messages are basically like fill in the blanks type of messages. I fill in the kind of projects that I would want to contribute to before sending my message to a particular organization. And then I at the last step is to use I send some sample work along with my proposal, so that they know that, yeah, I'm sincere, I am serious about this opportunity. And sometimes I ask them to give me like 10-15 minutes on a call, so that I can present my work. So that is something that I personally do, and it has paid really well. It shows that the person is actually doing some work. He has already started, he's into this thing. And that basically builds that trust, and that it shows how passionate a person is about their work, and they would deliver high quality output. So that is something that has worked for me in the past, and yeah, and it still does. So this is how I propose and pitch to my clients, and that's something that you can also do. Work a lot on your proposal pitch, rephrase it, proofread it, and rewrite it if you have to. And we'll learn more about it in the last step. And the final step, step number 5, is capture, analyze, and attune your approach. So you might land your first project in a day, in a month, or in 6 months. But an integral part of the process is to keep improving. You might fail at your first attempt, but use that failure to get better at it. So the final step is the iterative step. So you have to capture, you have to analyze, and you have to attune your approach based on what all you have learned in the previous 4 steps. So here are a number of things. So here's what you need to capture, analyze, and attune. First of all, you should capture or record the number of projects or clients that you reached out to, and how many of them responded, how many of them got interested in your proposal, rejected your proposal, or how many of them actually went ahead with you. Then why your proposal got rejected. Request a comment from the prospective client, or the client who rejected you. Then people who are successful in your niche, what are they doing differently? So record all of those things as well. Then lastly, what's new in your niche? Like what are people doing? How are people operating in your domain? Then analyze. Analyzing basically will lead you to a strategy that would help you adapt your approach. So the gap between the requirements of the project and your portfolio and your proposal, what you are proposing and what the client needs, there would be some gap that you'd have to bridge. So what's missing, you have to analyze that. Then understand each data point that you have captured, funnel the type of clients whom you had more chances to convert, and then create a separate category of clients for whom you have to bridge a gap between their requirements and your expertise. So you would actually be funneling the type of clients. Actually, you have already identified the ideal client, but in that particular category as well, you would reach to a set of clients whom you would be a very good fit for, and you'd have better chances to convert those clients. So after the analyzing process is done, you would have a strategy at hand. Then attune or adapt your strategy and implement it across each of those 4 steps that we have discussed. Start working on new projects to attain new skills or to master the ones that you have enlisted already. Create new things, solve new problems, use them as work samples. Then the second step, restructure, polish, attune your profile as per the client's needs, and then rewrite your proposal emphasizing their needs and your services. So add that to your work samples, add some numbers, some statistics that show how you have improved the business, how you have made someone's website more optimized, how is it performing at a very high speed, or maybe something else for a data analytics guy or marketing analytics guy. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. One last very important thing that I want to share with you is that these things take time, and even if you do not get a project or a client right away, please do not lose hope, and please do not forget that the main focus here is your growth. So you have to keep working on your skills, you have to keep creating or keep solving more complex problems, keep creating projects, and not those documentation level or basic tutorial level projects. Use that knowledge to solve something more complex and then add it to your work sample or your resume to get a job. So with that, it pretty much concludes our video, and I hope you find something valuable out of this, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, help us grow, share this video with your peers, and comment down below if you have any queries, suggestions, thoughts, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.